This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Gaspers continues to run his perfect record, but interestingly, Sadro has begun matching him by taking second in all 3 rounds he's most recently attended. This has meant the fight is not over by any means, even with only 5 races remaining. The Lone Star State could wind up providing the Texas-sized points haul that Sadro needs. We'll find out if it does as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Weekend Warriors, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Stefan Schlacker. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Circuit of the Americas plays host to the U.S. Grand Prix in real life this weekend, but not all of our viewers might be F1 fans. So for those unfamiliar, here's a closer look at the track, which has become colloquially known as COTA. Welcome to Circuit of the Americas. The cliche of everything's bigger in Texas rings true for this track in the Lone Star State. Built specifically for Formula One, the number of corners, circuit length, safety features, and general track amenities immediately set this place apart from almost every racing course in the United States. Of the 3 layouts available, the most widely used is the Grand Prix circuit, which tops out at a whopping 20 turns along nearly 3.5 miles. Many of them have been modeled after well-known sections of European tracks such as Silverstone, Hockenheim, and Istanbul. But compared to those venues, this place still has lots of unique challenges. Turn 1 in particular features the largest elevation change from the lap and culminates in a blind and sharp hairpin. The penultimate corner is just as tough, with its off-camber apex and sudden drop forcing many to escape to the paved runoff on the outside. And though it was meant to lure F1, many other series have now raced here, ranging from IndyCar to WEC, IMSA, and even V8 supercars. Track days are also common, with the SCCA running all types of amateur events to allow up-and-coming drivers to feel what it's like to battle on the same tarmac as Vettel and Hamilton have. With this track, American race fans finally get to experience a purpose-built course made in the modern day. Texas went bigger and better, and in the process, raised the bar for their peers. You see some of the sites that we have around here at Circuit of the Americas, but Steph, this is a long track for these cars. I have to imagine it's going to be quite a handful.
Oh yeah, most certainly, Joe. It's one of, I think it actually is the longest track on the calendar that these guys have to manage this season. 20 turns in total, 3.427 miles long, or 5.5 kilometers if you're on the European side of the scale. And for once, we're here talking not about the off-throttle oversteer, but much more about the on-throttle understeer that will most definitely come into play once they come into the S's here. For a very long part of the S's, they're actually full throttle through it, and only in the latter part of it they have to brake for that long right-hander. And then up the hill, once again, a little bit tricky as they rise over the hill. Stadium section, pretty much the same thing. Having to manage that on-throttle understeer will be quite the challenge. Once they go 2 wide, 3 wide, even 4 wide is possible, especially down the long back stretch, which will also play a big part in qualifying because of the major draft these cars get.
Yeah, I'm already seeing a few cars that are trying to line up amongst one another to use that for a little extra speed. Well, if you're lining up a race yourself, you might want to check out our sponsor, Sim Stickers. Weekend Warriors is brought to you by them because whether it's button boxes, steering wheels, or keyboards, they have you covered. You can find out more about them at simstickers.co.uk to help get your rig into shape. Now, The championship I talked about, it's been a little bit one-sided, the Spec 1 at least, David Gaspers. He's only 34 points ahead, which isn't a whole lot when you consider a win is worth 100. A bad race is all Gaspers needs to find himself falling below Daniel Sadro. And, well, that can happen pretty easily when you get a big field, which we've got today. Elson and Makarevi in a tight fight for third. Juracek could yet come into play, but he's got a little bit of ground to make up to those two. Let's look at the Spec 2 championship as well. Steph?
And Doherty is leading that one right now. He himself is 7th overall, so no small feat for him there. 252 points to his name. Bob Kern only 21 points behind that, and it's really close for that second place because Nico Schuk, our former leader in the Spec 2 standings, only 2 points behind Bob Kern. Gabe Nail, not too far away either. 8 points that is between himself and Nico Schuk, and then David Gregorio, 48 points behind, bringing up 5th place in the standings. So overall, extremely tight up in the front in the Spec 2 class.
Always love to see the good fight that we get those drivers fighting to compete in Spec 1. If they win, as they'll get promoted. Now, if you've never watched this series before, here's the details for today's race. As we mentioned, we are in round 8. The setups are open in the series. However, they've limited the fuel, so you can't expect a pit stop in this 40-minute race, which they wouldn't normally have in real life in the Spec racers. There you can see the points that I mentioned, 100 for win, but they're rationed down to 25. So last place will always get 25 points no matter how many people show, just to make sure that it's always fair depending on attendance. And they also have penalty points as well that you can see listed here. Now, that's going to be important here today. We'll talk about that a little bit later. They have a free repair in case they get any sort of damage. That's going to be a little harder to do because there's a lot of wide open space off to the side. You're going to have to hit somebody else more likely to try and come in and get some damage repaired out there today. We're watching this once again on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. All you got to do that is click on the big red button that says subscribe, and then you'll see all of the Weekend Warriors show up in your YouTube feed. Now, if you enjoy watching the Global Sim Racing channel, consider maybe checking out our merchandise store. We've got all kinds of fun goodies in there, including t-shirts that you can buy. And these shirts are pretty special. They actually have gold foil insulation. We took inspiration from the McLaren F1 and decided that's a good idea. Why don't we do that ourselves? That should help you, whether you're active and you run, or maybe just in your sim racing. You can work up a sweat doing that. Ask anybody who doesn't have any AC. Make sure and check it out. You can see our address there, gsrc.storenv.com. The link is in the description if you're too lazy to type that in, so it's easy enough to get there and see if you can snag yourself a shirt. Right now in the qualifying provisional pole going to Sadro, but we've had Gaspers here for a while and he has been practicing, but I'm not seeing him out on track right now. He is in the session, so I wonder if he's going to pull another back to front.
Yeah, it seems like David got a little bit bored by starting in first and finishing in first. No, just kidding, obviously. But David, I don't know, maybe has some real life, something pop up, and he has to step away for a few minutes. And yeah, maybe he puts in a lap time, maybe he doesn't. But I'm pretty sure that he will take the green flag come the race.
Yeah, we expect him to, especially since he's been in practice for so long leading up to this. Dominique Bureau, currently our provisional pole sitter for the Spec 2 pole. Obviously, they are competing for the same points, so every position counts, even if you are competing in the Spec 2. But drivers will try to want to be the first in that field regardless. Now, if you're wondering how to tell which car is in the Spec 2 field, just look at the car numbers on the car. If I could say car another time here, it's the number 208 for Bureau. So 200 and above, and you will know that that is a Spec 2 driver. Below that, it is a Spec 1. That is the Pro Championship. There's another one, Nico Schuk, down there running in 15th.
Yeah, now we're looking though at the 16th place car, Pascal Montmorency in that car with the car number 271. I think we've gotten a good car number now. Paul Jackson, he now getting up to 24th as he puts in his first qualifying lap. Pascal Montmorency, he is getting now ready to head into the very tricky stadium section, Joe. And I don't know if you have done some laps now leading up to his broadcast, but I, for some reason, always struggle with getting my braking zones as straight as I can in this section.
I do too. I'll be honest, I do not like this part of the track. I wish they could have something different here, but it does provide some interesting battles because we've seen sneak attacks in there, and there you can see it weaves its way into the long triple apexer. I've called it Turkey. I know it doesn't have an actual name, but I feel like since it's supposed to mimic the corner from Istanbul, it seems like as appropriate a name as any. And both that corner and here, the penultimate and the final corner, all have one of the dangers of today's race. I talked about those penalty points, Steph. Off tracks are going to be so easy to get. I'm wondering how many drivers are not going to be able to get the maximum points here today because of the ease with which you can slip over the bounds.
Many is probably the answer to that. I mean, if we would be full American style with the American car at an American track, we would allow them to use all the off-track that is there, like I have seen way too many times in real-life races. IndyCar, for example, one of those options to take. But no, as you said, it is extremely easy to pick up any off tracks here in iRacing, and if you're not careful, you're gonna run very quickly out of those 10 instants that you're allowed to not get a penalty point.
And the other thing too is a lot of these curbs, I'll look at them, they're pretty flat, which also adds to the ease with which you can go over the limit, unfortunately, and get those incident points. But the apex is at least mostly around through the S's. You talked about the understeer. I kind of wonder if the drivers will need to watch out for those pyramids that they have at the apexes, because the spec racer's kind of notorious for not liking tall curves.
Well, with starting with the flat curbs, welcome to a MotoGP track. They need those flat curbs to get into their lean angles. Obviously, those apex sausage curbs or pyramids, like you called them, they are there for Formula 1 cars or any cars, really, sports cars as well, to allow them to not cut the track too much. Obviously, if that's a Porsche race, then they're just laughing at them. They're taking them anyway. But yeah, no. It is that compromise, and especially for lower classes like the Spec Racer 4 or the MX-5, they are very prone to taking them by accident and then maybe even flipping their car or spinning out as Ryan Walker now goes over the line to start a new fast lap for him. As Daniel Sadro now comes up to the last lap, notorious there also to run a little bit too wide as he takes a 231.9, which is about 0.3 slower than his fastest lap, but still would have been enough for first place.
Yeah, Ryan Walker still chasing him 0.4 back, and it looks like he recently started his lap as well, so he's got a while to go to get around. In fact, this might be his last timed lap. I think he started after we got under the 2:30 mark here, since that's what most drivers are running.
I think you're right. By the way, last but not least, David Gaspers now on a fast lap himself, now coming up to turn 11.
Yep, the entry to the backstretch, one of the spots that we were talking about drivers are going to be using here in qualifying, but also in the race. And he's on an outlap, so I don't think he's going to be able to get a time in. But I'm excited to see how this plays out on this backstretch on the first lap, because you talked about how wide this track is and the slipstream of these cars. I kind of wonder if we're going to be seeing about 5 wide down there.
The backstretch is, if I remember correctly, the widest part of the track, and I'm pretty sure that if you squeeze in, you can go about 6 wide.
Especially, these cars are very small, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Walker's hitting the end of the backstretch right now, trying to spot that brake marker, get the car woed up for the tight hairpin. Could potentially get yourself a pass there if you don't get it done with a slipstream. And then we come to the stadium section where we're looking at before. Back to back to back hairpins all lined up together. Very slow and technical section. We're just about 30 seconds left. Almost looks like Walker might be the first one across the line to take the checkered flag. He's just behind Stevie Ray, who's currently qualified 7th.
Now, I'm actually wondering if David Gaspers will be able to get in a lap. He has about 15 seconds left, and he's now coming up to the last corner. 10 seconds at the apex. 7, 5, Is able to just about make it 3 seconds left as he crosses the line.
So he's going to go for one flying lap, but Stevie Ray does not make it. He's the first to finish, and he stays in 7th as he doesn't improve. Ryan Walker crosses the line, also not improving. And in fact, he's been bumped to 3rd because Juracek goes up to 2nd. Sadro coming around, still holding on to pole. Can he improve on that 31.6?
Wow.
He can. It's a 31.5 on his last attempt, Steph.
Yeah, great job by him running all solo, and 5/10 ahead of Juracek is no small feat. Here, woo! David Gaspers with the moment, and that's him around that. He is starting from 32nd.
Yeah, that was lap traffic, unfortunately, getting in the way. And, well, I don't think they're going to have any stewards that will make any sort of call on that. He's just got to deal with it. Zach LeVay coming across. He sits in 12th. Let's see what he's got underneath him. A 232.5, that's a big improvement. That's up to 7th. Tony Schuch down in the Spec 2, not going to improve. Neither does Brett Holton. I see Steve Elson, who tends to be a little bit quicker than 13th. He crosses the line. He only goes to 10th. He's got some work to do.
Well, 10th is a little bit quicker than 13th, so he made your target at least.
Aaron Vagley now down in 17th as well. Struggling with the penultimate corners we watched from onboard McAreevy there. This is Vaguely towing along Nico Schuch behind him. See if Nico managed to find some pace with that slipstream. They both cross the line. Aaron doesn't improve. Nico does the 232.9.
That was an improvement by 1.1 seconds, showing you how much you can improve with a little bit of draft.
A lot of drivers coming in to finish these final laps. Usually we see many of them abandon their last lap, so clearly a lot of them feeling good at the end of qualifying. McLeod, unfortunately, not going to improve. Samuel Dick now comes to the line in 11th. Oh, no improvement for him either. Esanumi, what about him? Number 217, doesn't count that lap. Looks like he had an off track somewhere around. What about Juracek? I think Juracek is finishing, yep.
Yeah, I think he was anyway over the time limit already.
I see Kellen Rhodes also coming in. Bob Kern, do believe you're correct that we're getting all the drivers that have now finished up. Kern, yes, coming like he is down into the pit. Zach LeVay, the last one out there. That is everybody. Our qualifying is over, and I think we're in for a treat with David Gaspers. We'll get to him a little while down the starting grid, because up at the top of it, it is Daniel Sadro kicking things off with another pole, but has yet to take a win this season. Let's see if he can convert it today. Miroslav Juracek was 0.4 of a second behind Sadro. That's a big gap. Is that enough for Sadro to break the draft? Inside of row 2, Ryan Walker will be starting in 3rd with Brett Holton, a nice qualifying for him, P4. Jerry McAreevy able to get in for qualifying today. He'll start within the top 5. Michael Shaw on the outside of him in 6th position. Zach LeVay starts P7 today. The outside of row 4 has Stevie Ray there. Dominique Bureau, the pole sitter for the Spec 2 field, will be starting 9th. And we mentioned Steve Elson slightly out of pace from what we expected, out of place rather, starting in 10th.
Row 6 is going to be set up with Samuel Dick and Edward Doherty. Nico Schuch and Michael Dobek will be running out row number 7. Pascal Montmorency will be down in 15th. Larry McLeod in 16th. Tony Schuch 17th. 18th went to Aaron Fögerling qualifying. And row 10. And with that, top 20 will be concluded by Emil Orsa and Hugh Haycox.
Kellen Rhodes follows them in the 21st spot. Then you've got Tom Gradwell starting 22nd. Esanumi will be P23 at the drop of the green. Sean Fleming will be to his outside in 24th. Ian Wilson starts P25. Then he's got Jeff Jacobson next to him in the 26th spot. Paolo Brim starts in 27th, and Jeff Cantor in 28th. Last 3 cars to get times in was Bill Daly in 29th, Paul Jackson in 30th, and Bob Kern in 31st. David Gaspers will be starting in 32nd. And Pepe Martinez, is he actually in here? Nope, looks like he still has not returned. So it will indeed be the very back of the field of 32 cars for David Gaspers. But if you've never watched, boy, Steph, our viewers are in for a treat today.
Oh, most definitely. Not only with the draft that will come in play, but also the technical sections that we have here today. And on top of that, we will have a mighty fast David Gasper starting from that last, trying to make a last 2 second the reckoning, pretty much to say. No, it would be the second time that we will see this season that David Gaspers goes from last to first, if he manages to do that. And I think especially the first 2 laps will be a wild ride with David Gaspers.
And he's got a lot of people to go through, but he's managed to make a lot of overtakes on the opening lap. I think it was 11 the first lap through last time around. So let's see how many he can pass today before he gets back by the line for the second time. They're right now riding behind the Porsche pace car. Thankfully, not a full lap around here, even though it is a rolling start. So you don't have to wait too long for them to get going.
Paul Jackson just accidentally brake checked David Gaspers there into the hairpin. David Gaspers nearly running into the back of Paul Jackson there. And to come back to not having a full pace lap, I'm one of those, probably one of the only guys to wish for that, but I would love to have on every single track a full pace lap, and that includes even the Nordschleife.
You are a masochist, sir. That's I prefer the shorter pace laps, at least on these tracks. It at least gets us going on the broadcast, and certainly for some of the drivers who are itching to get going, which I'm sure they are now, it allows the racing to get going much quicker. Around the penultimate corner, the pace car going to peel off early since it is pit entry before the final turn. Daniel Sadro will then have control. There goes the pace car. How is Sadro going to handle this corner? Is he going to go immediately? Is he going to back them up? He's waiting. He's going to back them up. He waits for the green flag. Ooh, and there's quite a bit of a checkup behind him. Cars almost getting into one another. Still not going. Green flag is out. Now he has to go as he accelerates away. Juracek, not the greatest of starts. He's already falling behind, but Walker's not to his inside. He doesn't cover him off. Everybody trying to place themselves. Some of them dropping back, though. 4 wide coming up into the first corner. This could be a mess. How are they going to sort this out? Almost looks like 5 wide in some cases, and everybody manages to get through.
And what a start from Paolo Brem. He started in 27th this race, and he's already up to 19th. What a great decision by Paolo Brem to just keep his foot in. Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray is off. David Gasper's report, first corner, he was up to 22nd position. He's already to 21st now as they come through the end of the S's up the hill towards one of the highest points on the track. Sadro, your leader. Juracek follows. Walker third.
Another spin. Steve Elson.
Looks like Elson gets it going once again, but he's down to 11th. More cars swapping order behind him. Already coming up to the backstretch now where things are really about to kick off. Oh, and Sadro almost loses the car coming off the corner. This is going to hand over the lead on a silver platter to Juracek.
Yeah, let's see if he can even defend his position against Ryan Walker. He is close by, but seems like it's not close enough as Daniel Sadro now gets some steam under his hood. Maybe even tries to challenge for first. No, let's Juracek have it.
A little bit farther behind, you could see some of the cars fanning out on the backstretch, but not many in the way of pass attempts down into this turn number 12.
Except for David Gaspers.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Up to 13th now.
Oh my goodness, ridiculous. In fact, he's already on the back of Dobek, who started this race in 14th, where he is right now. Tells you the kind of speed that Gaspers has, not able to make any positions up as we ride on board with him through the stadium section. Still, This has not been as messy as one could have feared through this first lap. It's been a little chaotic at points, but drivers have found space well.
It's a theme starting to happen here at Weekend Wars, where they are very disciplined about their starts in the first 2-3 laps, and I really like it as Steve Elson goes past Samuel Dick around the inside there of the last corner. Makes it happen now, and he is up to 10th place.
But he's got to go defensive a little bit, and I think Samuel might take a look to the inside. He's awful close if he wants to try and repass him back, but he decides no, he's going to stay behind as they all break up and over the crest into turn 1 for the second time today. You can see we haven't had a change back for the lead yet. Sadro has been holding behind Juracek. Still being chased, of course, by Walker.
Yeah, Steve Elson a little bit loose out of the first turn. Oh, that's Edward Doty. Into the wall he goes.
Actually managed to find a wall somewhere.
Oh!
Doherty. Oh, and he comes back on track. Was that in front of his teammate? No, that was Shuk.
No. That was Nico Shuk, 3rd place in the Spec 2 class.
Did he just fly right back in front of traffic? Here's the initial incident with Doherty. He's in the green and yellow machine, you can see. Just loses it on his own. Hits the wall.
Yeah, and then just drives back onto the track. Doesn't realize how much damage he's carrying to the front. His car doesn't really turn anymore. And Nico Shuk right into the scene of the accident. Nowhere of avoiding that green and white car.
That takes Shuk out of the Spec 2 race for today, although he can get back in with his spare car. Bureau is currently our leader in the Spec 2, but he's being overtaken by Elson right now. As a battle for the lead here. Sadro had a go at Juracek. Didn't quite make the pass.
Yeah, he didn't make the pass, but it seems like that Sadro is getting held up by Juracek. It's just a question of how much faster is he, and can he, with his speed that he can carry more than Juracek, get away from him and everyone behind him.
Everyone behind him right now is down to 5th place. Jerry McAreevy there. Walker and Holton is splitting the pair of them, but it's essentially a 5-car breakaway. And you got a big gap back to Zach LeVay in 6th. Gaspers is in among LeVay's group, so he could still yet run them down. He's up to 10th and currently working on Bureau.
I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Gaspers would be running down the top 5 once he gets past all of this, as he actually did put in a lap time that's just 2/100th slower than Juracek.
Yeah, that tells you all you need to know. He's still in traffic and up to turn 1. Whoa, 2 for 1 maybe, or did he overshoot the corner? He gets a bump from behind as Elson has nowhere to go. That's going to slow up Steven and give the spot back to Bureau. Or will it? They're going to be side by side as they come up the S's. Dominique thinks better of that one.
Yeah, I don't think he overshot the turn. It's just that he got surprised by Steve Elson turning in so early for that turn 1 and kind of cutting off his...
Yeah, sorry, Bureau making a big mistake in the S's, and then Dobek, an even bigger one. He cut the course. That's for sure going to be a slowdown penalty for Dobek. And indeed, he hands that time back. So up at the front once again, Sadro much closer down the backstretch. Does he want to pass, though? We haven't talked about yet with Draft Track. There's always the chance to save fuel. He gets up behind the 84. Nope, he wants to get ahead. He is going to attempt this pass, and he pulls off to the left side. No defense from Juracek this time. As they come down into turn 12, Sadro neat on the brakes, but even better on the brakes. Juracek gains time and very much blowing the corner. That was Holton in the background you saw screeching to a halt way to the outside of the turn.
Michael Shaw misses a shift in behind for 7th place and loses that position directly to David Gaspers. So David Gaspers already behind Zachary LeVay for that lead of the 2nd train.
Oh, and he actually gets into LeVay there. A little bit of a tap. Once he gets by Zach, this will be, I think, the first time this race that Gaspers will have seen clean air in front of himself. See a tiny little bit of damage that's on the back of the number 13. On board with Gaspers here, waiting for a chance to try and sneak by, maybe waiting for the front stretch, or is he going to try it into the final corner? He's close enough he could give it a go if he wanted. Answer is no. he's going to wait for the front stretch.
Yeah, gives himself the run up on Leve. Leve very wide there, set with a 2:30.833. David Gaspers a 2:30.963, so only a few hundredths slower than Sergio, while also overtaking people. Just shows you how much faster David Gaspers right now is as he goes into oblivion really quick and comes back while overtaking Zachary Leve.
So P6 now for the number 23 and a wide open track in front of him. 5.2 seconds up to Holton, who we saw make that mistake before. He and McAreevy fell back a little bit because of that incident. So we've broken up that top 5 into 2 little groups of Sadro, Juracek, and Walker. And then you've got McAreevy and Holton together.
And just to give you a little bit of an idea how much faster Gaspers is than the rest of the guys up in the top 5, he was about 1.7 seconds faster than Gary McAreevy.
So obviously quickly gaining time. Wow, way wide once again from Juracek coming onto the backstretch using all the track and then some. This time a little bit farther apart from one another, this top group. So I don't think we're going to see any passes among them. Our leader in the Spec 2 is still Bureau, but he's now fallen to 11th overall. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Juracek almost getting into the back of Sadro. Oh, and we have a problem with Holton, and it's the same corner again. Oh, and he gets hit by Gaspers. Holton not liking turn 12. Is this the same deal? No, it looks like he didn't outbrake himself. He just... Oh, you know what? That is a big chunk of curb.
And you know what? I'm actually surprised by this, but Gaspers didn't pick up any damage from that.
Oh my goodness. How did he get away with that? Like that? And for credit to the 8, he tried to pull off the racing line, get out of the way, and it's just Gaspers chose to go off track to get around him. So it was an unfortunate miscommunication. I really feel like the 8 did the right thing there in getting off the racing line. Oh, and who is that going around? That's Shaw.
Did he have help there? That now is the question. Steven Elson was quite close behind him. Let's have a look on to the replay. Watching from the rear, and that's a big yes.
He figured he's in Texas. Might as well use a little bit of short track racing style to try and get by somebody. Moved him out of the way. And that's going to put Elson into 7th spot. We're about 11 minutes into this race now. Starting to get towards the pit window. Drivers who do have a lot of damage might want to consider diving in to see if they can get their spare car and pick up some pace. With it being such a big field, though, there's always the chance you could come out in traffic.
Obviously disregarding David Gaspers right now, our biggest mover in this field is having a quick look. Paolo Brem starting from 27th right now up to 17th, just overtaking Colin Rhodes a lap ago. 2 seconds clear of him, 2 seconds clear of Brett Holton ahead of him in 16th, who after his mistake in the hairpin lost about 11 spots.
Clearly pushing, you could see as he locks him up on the way into 11. Oh, speaking of locking him up, Juracek just did in 12 at the end of the back stretch, and Ryan Walker almost had a thought about trying to get by as we look now at Elson in this little battle. To his inside, Sam Dick trying to get that spot away, and he does. So Dick up into 7th. Elson demoted to 8th. Bureau still behind them. Weaving their way back and forth through the stadium section, this group of 4. Now coming up to Turkey. They've got a good gap behind them. Michael Shaw, the one that got turned by Elson, still a ways away. And I tell you what, it's not been a good race for Nico Schuk. I just saw him have another problem in turn 12. He got back out on track, and he's on the lead lap, I'm pretty sure. Just bopped over the curb. That's the second time we've seen that. It was Holton that did it before. And we have some takers for the pits. In fact, a couple of them. Shaw's in, probably to get some repairs done. Ray, I think, probably the same case. Aaron Vaguely comes in early. Of course, Stevie Ray tends to come in, damage or not.
Pretty sure Stevie Ray indicates that the paint window is most definitely open right now, as he also takes a fast repair, I imagine. Yes, he did. Clean
Back
car
up.
for him.
Back up to the front. Juracek, instead of being on the attack for Sadro, has since been on the defense. Ryan Walker challenging him for a lap or two and has been threatened to try to take that P2 away. I'm sure Sadro would love that, for those two to start squabbling amongst each other. They come onto the backstretch once again. They've now pretty officially dropped Jerry McAreevy, who's a whole 3.5 seconds behind. Gasper's cut that down to 3.2 behind Jerry. Into turn 12. Juracek not close enough to attack, but at least far enough away to not have to defend as well. Down into the hairpin at the end of the backstretch. I think Elson's going to try and retake this spot from Sam Dick behind them, going into that same corner where he lost it, and I think Elson's got it back. Back to P7 for the number 56. Starting to see some separation throughout the field as drivers get themselves a little bit of space and be able to break slipstream in a number of cases so that they can focus on their own driving and not have to worry about what's going on in the mirrors. Let's see if we get any other takers into the pit lane. Top 3 say no. Top 4 as McAreevy goes on by. Gasper's not interested, but Steve Elson is going to come in.
Welcome to the fastest lap. David Gasper's a 30.533, officially the fastest lap of the race.
That'll be a nice bonus for him. As he comes around, as I mentioned, stays out this time, so he's promoted to 5th. Where is Elson going to come out? Elson's finally hit his stall. He also gets a spare car, as you can see, and it is now nice and clean. It's about 10 to 11 seconds for a normal stop and 12 seconds slightly slow for Elson. But he is going to be the first of the pitters that returns to the track. Interesting that the laps take so long around here. We're already just about halfway through this thing.
Yep, so with that, we're expecting about 15 laps in this race. And I'm pretty sure David Gaspers, it's only a matter of time until he catches up to the top of 3 people. Last lap with his 230.5, which was without traffic, by the way, or draft. Obviously, he was about half a second faster than the leaders, and he's already caught up about 3/4 to them. So once again, David Gaspers looks to be very close to this last lap that was the fastest one.
Remember, it's going to be a little bit harder for him, I'm sure, to overtake these cars that are a slightly higher skill level than what he had to deal with coming up through the field. And in fact, the skill level showing between Ryan Walker and Miroslav Juracek, who've been stuck nose to tail without swapping positions for a while. Walker just continuing to threaten, but not able to get his nose in.
Yeah, you're saying the skill. Now, obviously, yes, Gaspers is faster than the guys ahead of him, especially Jerry McAreevy, who was last lap about 1.5 seconds slower than David Gaspers. But once he gets up and past Gary McReevy, he will no doubt be dragging him along up to the guys ahead as Larry McLeod and Kellen Rhodes are fighting on screen.
That's down through Turkey, and looks like Rhodes is going to lose out. So Paolo takes 13th position. Do either of these two take it into the pits? Looks like Paolo's going to try and get the spot back. Excuse me, Kellen's going to try and get the spot back. Oh, but he's going to get into his side. Contact is made. Is this going to gift a position to Tom Gradwell? In fact, it is. So Tom Gradwell, 2 for 1, up to 13th spot. Looks like both Rhodes and Bream are able to get the cars going. Probably not too happy with one another. Gasper's now within reach of McAreevy. In fact, I think he might have the pass here. Coming through turn 10 because of a bad exit out of 9 for Jerry McAreevy. Gasper's now up to 4th position.
And now watch at how much he will drag Gary McReevy along him. Obviously 1.5 seconds faster, but that difference is going to be much smaller as this very long backstretch will play in hand now for Gary McReevy. Question is, can he stay long enough with David Gasper so that he can catch up to the top 3 guys again? That is a question that remains to be answered.
Gasper's last 3 laps quicker than Sadro, our overall leader right now, who's pulled away from Juracek, actually. Wow, we've been paying so much attention to everything elsewhere. Sadro's got a gap of 2.3 seconds over Juracek. So Sadro doing all he can to try and take this win. Now, last week we saw a similar situation over at Bathurst, and Sadro couldn't come away with the win, but traffic came into play there. And they do have Emil Orza in front of them, but after that, there's pretty much nobody in front, especially for quite some time. As they come around that final corner and onto the front stretch once again. Still not seeing anybody here at the top of the field coming into pit. Elson remains to be our highest pitter. Finally, we get Samuel Dick in there. Now, Dick was fighting with Elson, so this should be effectively a battle to decide who winds up around, I think it was 7th place.
And while these guys are pitting, David Gaspers would have put in a new fastest lap. This time it would have been a 2:30.125, but it seems like he had an off-track or maybe a 0x somewhere along the way, as it didn't count as the fastest lap.
Let's see, Dick and Dobek both in their pit stalls. Elson is coming up the front stretch right now. This is going to be awful close. And Elson is by. Dobek actually jumps Samuel Dick in the pit stops. A very slow stop for the 119. So not only does he lose out to Elson, but he loses a position getting leapfrogged. Comes back in 15th, but we're still waiting for a few drivers in front of them to pit to sort that position out completely. See, that is Hugh Haycox that is riding just behind him. Now, Hugh has finished his stop, so this is a legitimate position considering he started in 20th, and they're probably going to get a few from drivers in front pitting. The Spec 2 driver that we're riding on board with right now is looking at a very good finish today.
Now, I just wanted to mention Gary McReevy, we don't need to go there. He so far has been able to stick with David Gaspers until just now because he made a big mistake into the hairpin and lost about 7/10, now about 2 seconds behind David Gaspers, so he really lost the draft now of the faster car, which means that probably Gary McReevy will not be able to catch the train for that second place.
Yeah, that could have been the mistake that unfortunately cost him potential podium,
Juracek.
and Juracek is in.
That's
Right.
interesting.
So going to try some alternate strategy, maybe seeing if he could shake Walker, because remember, Walker was staying right behind him. Feels that maybe Walker doesn't have the pace to keep up if he isn't riding in his draft. You can see Ryan continues on in second.
Maybe, just maybe, he saw Emil Orsa up ahead in the relative box. He is going to be lapped very soon by Ryan Walker, and maybe he thought that he might get held up by Emil and thus pits and goes onto an alternate strategy to get loose of Ryan Walker.
Juracek is going to return in 8th position. Sadro, where is Orza? He's already by Orza. Walker coming up to him as they exit the S's. Credit to Orza, he's had quicker pace than I expected. Thought that he would be caught very quickly, but it's taken a bit for our lead cars to try and overtake him. On to the back stretch. Not sure that Walker is close enough to be able to get by with the slipstream here. In fact, he might be looking a little bit more in his mirrors because David Gaspers has now closed it in to 1.4 seconds and continuing to narrow that down. How did Juracek do with traffic, though, returning to the track? I think, you know what, the 84 is pretty well out in the open. Look at that. Nobody around, so he can run hot laps if he wants to right now. Wow. The pace of Gaspers is impressive. They were coming onto the backstretch, and I said it was 1.4 seconds. Well, Steph, it's now 0.6. They've only had about 3 or 4 corners.
Welcome to the David Gaspers show here on GSRC, alongside with IESN. I think that we're about to see the second time in a row David Gaspers going from last to first and completely demoralize everyone else in this field.
Oh, Elson has had another problem, and he's going to lose some spots. This was at the end of turn 12. They're trying to get it sorted out as more cars stream by. That's Hugh Haycox in the mix. Jacobson is going to be split by Hugh between himself and Steven. Eventually, looks like they've now gotten themselves in a line. So, let's kick off.
Yeah, Joe, that's a comedy of errors for Steve Elson and Jeff Jacobson. There we see both of them trying to spin it around simultaneously. Now, both of these guys lost it on the brakes into the turn. You're gonna see it right here. Go both over the sausage cup and spin it around.
Yeah, that sends them both into the air. Jacobson is actually coming into the pits, and I think, yeah, he hasn't taken his stop yet. So I was hoping he didn't get a meatball flag from bounding over that thing too hard, but clearly not a good day for Jacobson there over that lap. It'll set him down the order.
So, meanwhile that happened, guess what? Gaspers got past Walker into turn 1.
Indeed he did. Walker's staying with him. Walker doing what Jerry McAreevy tried to do. Both of them passed Orza in the meantime as well. Still waiting for all of them to pit. Juracek now running in 7th spot out on the track with his stop done, our highest pitter. Is this the trick that he needed? Gaspers currently 4 seconds back from Sadro, 13 minutes to go. 2.5 minutes per lap. We're looking at 5 or 6 laps left. So Gaspers will need to be just a little less than a second a lap faster than Sadro, if I'm understanding correctly. Math is always a dangerous thing here to do on GSRC. There's our leader, Daniel Sadro. He's getting towards the end of the pit window, so he'll probably want to come in soon. And look at that. actually called fuel mileage for once, right?
David Gaspers comes in with him, and I made a quick calculation of how much faster David Gaspers was per lap until this point. And he started with about 12 seconds on Daniel Sandro, comes into the pit lane with about 3.5, which means he was getting about 1/10 per lap on Daniel Sandro thus far.
All right, all of them down to their pit stalls. Our pole sitter all the way at the very end as Juracek comes around the final corner. How is this going to play out between them? He didn't have to deal with lap traffic while they did, but Sadro is already out. Gaspers follows. Juracek is well down there. So Sadro, actually, it was a very fast stop for Sadro. 9.5 seconds. About a second quicker than Juracek in his stall. In fact, Juracek loses out to Gaspers, who jumps them both. Still waiting on Zach LeVay, who is our new leader, to pit. Dominic Bureau as well. Sadro should retake the lead once those two are in. It should move Gaspers into second, Juracek to third, and Walker, unfortunately, getting a range of different positions today and falls down to fourth. As we come back to the battle between Dick and Elson. Watch those two swap back and forth a few times already.
Alright, now that everything has settled out, obviously Zachary LeVay and Bureau, as you mentioned, still need to pit, but David Gaspers, even though he had the slower pit transition time and a slower stop, he has still gained half a second up to this point on Daniel Sandro. So, yes, his pit stop was slower, but still, somehow he managed to gain time.
3.4 seconds to make up to Sadro as they break for the end of the backstretch. They're actually pretty close to both Bureau and LeVay, so obviously they will be coming in this time, so they hopefully shouldn't hold them up. Certainly could make you nervous seeing drivers ahead of you that are for position. Hoping that you won't be slowed down when you've got David Gaspers being chased behind you, especially after last week at Bathurst, with the lap traffic giving a bit of a headache to the number 51. Oh, and LeVay is actually going to spin it off track. Is he going to be able to get out of the way? He does in time, just as he loses the position to Dominique Bureau, who heads into the pits, and Sadro is able to sneak through without any dramas. That's the last of our two pitters then. As they come across the line, Gaspers down to 2.6 seconds. I'd say he's got it within hand if he's able to get by. This allows us to run you down through the field, though, in these final 10 minutes of the race. Let's start with our leader, Daniel Sadro. Put it on pole by a decent margin. Had about 0.3 of a second to the next car back. Lost the lead briefly, but has since been in it for the majority of the laps. David Gaspers started from the very back of the field. He's climbed his way all the way to second and does look to be on pace to be able to overtake Sadro, but catching and passing are two different things. Miroslav Juracek, he's the one that took the lead away from Sadro for just a lap or two and then eventually lost it right back. The 84 now falls to third with Gaspers climbing his way through. Walker behind him sat in third patiently for so many laps and is unfortunately going to be off the podium unless something drastic happens because he has not caught Juracek. Top five, rounded out by Jerry McAreevy, just has not really had the pace to keep up with the top drivers. He's fallen back since pretty much lap 2 or 3. What's the next five look like there, Steph? We may have lost Steph, unfortunately. So we jump over to Samuel Dick, up to 6th position.
I'm back. Sorry.
There we go.
What was the question?
I was asking what the next 5 are in our running order right now.
Ryan Walker right now in 6th place. Actually, sorry, that is my timing screwed up a little bit. Samuel Dick, your 6th place driver right now in 11th place, started. Good race for him right now. In 7th place, we have Hugh Haycox running. Started from 20th position, so a very good race thus far by him. Very good and very quiet, which is the race you like the most. Right behind him, you see him in the screen. There he is. Michael Shaw started in 6th place, right now in 8th place. So he lost 2 positions, but the big story behind him, that is Michael Dobek. Started also in 14th, right now in 9th place, fighting for the 8th place. Maybe able to get it. We will have to see. The battle of the Michaels will continue for sure. In 10th, last but not least, in the top 10, that is your 4th place starter, Brett Holton. Most definitely looking to recover whatever he can from that very early spin in the hairpin after long straight. So yeah, top 10, very mixed up there in the front. Only one driver, though, that is actually Spec 2 driver.
Yeah, Hugh Haycox currently leading that race. Bureau, unfortunately, falling down to 12th after the pit stops are all said and done. Still a second in that Spec 2. Won't be too bad for Dominic. The gap between Sadro and Gaspers is now down to 1.3. Last time by, it was 0.6 of a second quicker for Gaspers and Sadro. In fact, David ran his fastest lap of the race thus far. With 5 minutes left on the clock, I believe it will be 3 laps to go at the line. 2 laps to go. Riding on board with David. Seeing the glare of that Texas sun bouncing off the pavement. Looking for his brake markers. You have to wonder at what point it starts to become less fun and more of a frustration for drivers like Sadro, losing the win when your competitor... Oh, and what happened to Vaguely here? 247 going very slow. Whoa! Losing the rear, coming through the S's. Doesn't look like he lost a spot, though. Oh, maybe he did there, and one of them does go by. And Juracek loses a spot. Ryan Walker gets by. A self-spin from the number 84.
Interesting. Therefore, Juracek actually... there we go. So he's going into the last part of the stadium section and cuts the corner a little bit too much over the small sausage cup there, jumps his car around and spins it out.
Starting the penultimate lap now, Gaspers is now within half a second of Sadro. As he comes down through turn 2, he's got plenty of time to do this. If you were Gaspers, though, Steph, would you want to do it immediately and hope that you could pull away? Or would you be afraid that you're giving an opportunity to Sadro to slipstream right back by? May have lost Steph once again there. Let's see which route that David Gaspers wants to take. Ooh, he is riding right on the gearbox of the spec racer of Daniel Sadro. Doesn't go for the pass down into 10. Does he duck in on turn 11? Nope, he'll stay in line. He knows he's going to get a nice slipstream down the backstretch as long as he gets the run. Here we go. Is this going to be an immediate pass? Is he going to wait patiently? He looks to the inside. Sadro doesn't defend as well. He holds the outside line. With the extra momentum, the number 23 squeaks his way through up to the front. He has a nose ahead. He's technically our leader right now, waiting for that braking zone. Sadro almost looked like a little bit of a lift down into the corner and lets him through.
either Sadro knows or he thinks maybe I can get him on the last lap. Obviously, once you're past this section here, or once you have entered this section here, there's no real passing zone anymore for the Spec Racer 4. Yes, you can dive into here like Sadro had a little bit of a look, but I wouldn't say that that really is a passing zone unless you want to Need for Speed it. So going ahead with this, David Gaspers right now has the better chance of winning this race because he has the bigger pace, and for Sadro it's all about staying as close as possible through the S's all the way up to turn 11, and then maybe, just maybe, get up on the draft of David Gaspers and do something into turn 12, but that is an extremely big maybe.
White flag is out. Final lap in this 40-minute race for round 8 of the Weekend Warriors. Gaspers has come all the way from dead last on the field to be leading the final lap, and Sadro has to try and do something to see if he could sneak it back. We ride on board with Daniel. He's taken second place in each of the last 3 rounds he's attended, all of them behind this man, David Gaspers, up in front of our view. He's starting to fall back, Steph. This is not looking good for the 51. Climbing towards the top of the S's now. Sadro's really got to hustle if he wants the chance to try and slipstream by. He's pushing the curves as wide as he can, clattering over the apexes, flirting with danger on those apex curbs. A little bit of traffic in front of them. That's Pascal Montmorency. Not sure that they'll catch him in time. You could tell that Gaspers feels some urgency to try and pull away as he was using as much of the track himself. Down the backstretch, Steph, I do not think this is enough for Sadro unless we get a mistake from Gaspers. I think it's his to lose.
Yeah, you're saying it. This isn't right now Gaspers to lose. We have some 2 cars there, Pascal Montmorency and Edward Doherty ahead of him. But I don't think that that is actually not going to be any trouble for him if he even catches them. David Gaspers seems like the guy to lose this one right now.
Just incredible watching him do this multiple times now. Certainly seems like he enjoys it because he has repeatedly done it, what looks to be intentionally. Through the stadium section, Daniel Sadro just watching yet another win slip through his fingers. Nobody seems able to stop the number 23 of David Gaspers. The DH driver has won every round he's shown up to, and with the drop weeks is still on a perfect run here. Texas looks like it is going to continue that perfect run as he comes out of the final corner and wins today here at Circuit of the Americas. Down in 6th place, Samuel Dick. What a run for him. Started in 11th position and looking very good. Behind him, it is a battle between Hugh Haycox, our lead in the Spec 2, and Michael Shaw trying to take that away from him. Not sure that he's going to get much of a chance. Can sometimes get a sneak attack into the final corner, but I'm not seeing Shaw nearly close enough to attempt something like that. Around that final corner, Haycox going to win the Spec 2 race here today in Texas.
Brett Holton spun out of the penultimate corner. Is he actually going to lose it? Nope, he's not going to lose any places. Dominic Bureau is 11th place.
Holton rounding out the top 10. 15th between Vagley and Bream. Awful tight. Remember, we saw Aaron have an issue a little bit earlier in the S's, so he lost some time from there. He's not going to want to lose any more. Right up underneath him. That looks like Bream thought about it, but then couldn't get the car in there. Vaguely.
Oh, Bream spun.
15th.
Oh, Cradwell gets spun.
Whoa, what is going on there? Bream is going to get across the line. And that is Nico Schuk who gets in ahead of Jacobson, who, is he barely going to get across there? Gradwell beats him to it.
Jeff Jacobson's sportsmanship right there displayed on your screens, letting Tom Gradwell by. Just ever so slightly running Tom Gradwell accidentally out of space there on the outside, spins him around right into Paulo Brem, and Paulo Brem, very lucky, you can see him there going nearly on his roof, and then rotation, lucky charm there, keeps it on the four wheels and drives over the start finish line.
Incredibly, we actually had the majority of cars finish on the lead lap, just because it's such a long lap around here. Esanumi is our last one to cross the line, as we watch one more time from onboard Jeff Jacobson. And there's the sportsmanlike move you mentioned, just making sure that he gives that spot back, even though it costs him one in the process. That's going to take us to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. But stick around, because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas. Well, we didn't watch the F1 Grand Prix. Instead, we watched the Weekend Warriors here racing, and it was David Gaspers doing what nobody's done in Formula One, which is go from very last to very first by the checkered flag. He took first place ahead of Daniel Sadro for the fourth time this season. Sadro taking second with Ryan Walker up to third, a late mistake from the car who finished behind him. Miroslav Juracek gifted Walker a podium. Juracek settles for fourth position, with Jerry McAreevy taking a top five, exactly where he started. Then you get into the drivers that really changed some positions. How about Samuel Dick, 11th to 6th? Well, he got topped. Not Ian Haycox, the other Haycox, Hugh Haycox for the Spec 2 Championship. First to finish in that class, went from 20th on the grid to 7th. Michael Shaw takes P8 behind him. Dobeck with a 9th position, and Holton going backwards today, finishing only in 10th after starting 4th.
Going backwards, Dominic Bureau did the same thing, started in 9th place, finishes in 11th place. Stevie Ray as well goes backwards, started in 8th place, finishes finally in 12th place. Larry McLeod, the first guy to go forward again, 16th to 13th to finalize that position for him. Zachary Levy loses 7 positions to find himself in 14th. Aaron Fugly finished 15th, Kellen Rhodes in 16th, Paulo Brem 17th. Nico Schuk, after a very quiet race after his first lap incident, he finishes in 18th place. Tom Gradwell 19th, and running out your top 20 of this field here today, Geoff Jacobson, starting from 26th.
21st went to Sean Fleming. Bob Kern, despite being 3 seconds off the next car in qualifying, apparently is better in race pace. He got 26 and went from 31st on the grid. Then you've got Paul Jackson finishing P23 with Jeff Cantor in 24th. Esanumi was 25th. Tony Schuch 26th, Doherty 27th, and Pascal Montmorency was the last car on the lead lap in the 28th spot. Then you get into cars that are a lap down. Most of them had big issues today. Emil Orza, Bill Daly, Ian Wilson 3 laps down, Steven Elson 4 laps down was all is said and done. Pepe Martinez was a did not start today. So with that, we've got our winner ready to talk to us, David Gaspers, still running a perfect season so far, counting the drop weeks. David, this one you did it with, about a lap and a half to spare, it looks like.
Yeah, it was closer than I hoped. Messed up qualifying again, but didn't help.
So, okay, so let's clear up what happened in qualifying, because we assumed as we watch your first lap here from on board, we assumed that you did it intentionally, not looking to get a lap in. Did you mean to start from the back, or were you just hoping to try and do a single qualifying lap just to pressure yourself?
No, I was watching Formula One, so I left enough time for a one-timed lap, but I had someone in front of me, and at the first part of the S's you usually go flat out, and he braked there, so I had to avoid him and spun.
Real-world racing always getting in the way of having fun here in the virtual world. No spoilers, because I haven't gotten to watch the race yet myself. Now, some impressive stuff here at the start. We talked to you about this last week as well, but this week, incredibly technical here in the first part of the lap, going through the S's with a couple cars even going off course. I mean, isn't that scary, having to deal with a lot of unknowns doing that?
It depends on the track. On this one, it was less scary than on Bathurst, because the mountain part was very scary there. But I don't really understand how I got from 32nd to 13th on lap 1, so I think I got really lucky.
Still some impressive moves that we're watching right now that you're making here on the screen. So next round is going to be Daytona Road, and much like this one and at Bathurst, there's a lot of drafting that can happen there. First of all, are you going to be there, and will it be another case of starting from the back, or are you finally done with that trick?
I know I'm skipping next week. I really don't like tracks where you draft into the finish, where usually the guy in front just loses up.
I can understand that. Again, congratulations on another victory, and hopefully then we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, I'll be there.
That's David Gaspers, winner here today. Daniel Sadro, the bridesmaid, yet again, talking to Stefan Schlacker about the battle with David Gaspers.
David Gaspers always saying he won't be there at draft tracks, but be sure he will show up most definitely there once again, because he can't stop racing the Weekend Warriors, and so can't Daniel Sadra. Sadra, Daniel, how to put it? You were leading most of the race, and then that David Gaspers comes in again and ruins the show.
Well, I don't know if you can say ruins the show. I honestly, I think it probably made a better broadcast, other than, me losing him on lap 2 or 3 in the draft or something like that. No, I had kind of expected that result to happen. I knew just how much faster he was than I was, and I had some real problems at turn 11, that hairpin going on to the back straightaway. So I knew it was going to happen, and it was just it's kind of that Jaws theme in the background. The shark is going to attack, you just don't know which lap it's going to be.
Well, the most important corner you were struggling with then. Now, going forward to the next round, David said he isn't going to be there, but I think both of us know that he is going to be there. Like it was the same thing with the big grid at Charlotte, where he said he wouldn't be there, and that was there. So, Daniel, going forward, Daytona Road, the old Daytona, so also very important about the track limits there, especially in the chicane on the backstretch. How are you looking forward to that race?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's Actually, it has some memories for me. The old Daytona was the first track I ever did a race with in the Spec Racer Ford, although it was on the internal road course instead of the big boys course, using the banking. So it'll be fun. It'll be some really good racing, and yeah, just come and do my best and see what happens.
That would actually be something interesting. Weekend Warriors 40 cars around the infield Daytona Road. But yeah, Daniel, congratulations on your second place there, and good luck for next week.
Thanks, and have a good week, guys.
Daniel Zadro talking to us there. Next up, it's Ryan Walker with Joe Peak.
Yeah, Walker managing to get into third towards the end of the race. But before that, Ryan, it looked like Miroslav had you covered. You rode behind him for, it looked like almost every lap.
Yeah, that was a good race with Miroslav. First off, I have to apologise for my voice being a wee bit funny because, I've been unwell with the flu all week. So I apologise first off. But yeah, that was a good race with Miroslav. I enjoyed that, and the plan for the early stages of the race when I was behind him was just try and stay behind him and save some fuel and try and jump him in the pit stop. But unfortunately, he jumped me and then got in front of me. So yeah, the aim for the race was just try and finish in the top four. But when I seen that he spun towards the end of the race, when he was P3, I thought I'll try and pick up the pieces and just try and maintain the gap towards the end of the race, and managed to do that. And happy with a podium finish.
And speaking of podiums, you've obviously been a major player as of late in these races. Do you think a win is potentially on the cards? Because it certainly seems like Daytona could be an open goal next week, with a little bit of random chance maybe playing in your favor.
I would like to get a win, but when you've got people like Daniel and David and Miroslav and a few other quick guys in the series, it'll be difficult. So yeah, it would be nice to get a win, but just overall, just try and get a good result. If I get another podium finish, then happy day.
That sounds like a good attitude, at least, to take towards things, especially up against this competition. Before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Stevie Ray for putting on the series and running the show and doing an awesome job as always, and also thanks to the other guys in the series, or other people in the series, I should say, for helping me out when I've been stuck or just needing help with stuff like setups and advice. And thanks to the people that run the show and that race in the series as well.
Well, that was our third place finisher, Ryan Walker, clearly happy with a podium today. And that's going to close us up for our broadcast, of course. So let's thank a few people before we go, starting out with our sponsor for the series, Sim Stickers. If you'd like to check them out, see what kind of stuff they have for your sim rig, you can find them at simstickers.co.uk. Also, a thank you goes out to iRacing for putting us on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe so that you don't miss a moment and see all of their exciting races in your YouTube feed. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Steph, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check us out on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to check out some of our merchandise, again, the link is below. It is gsrc.storeenvy.com. The next race is at Daytona. That's the road course, of course, and that'll be Sunday, November 10th at 2:45 p.m. Eastern. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.